Hello, it's your local idiot again. Had a tiny little thought. Thought I'd share it with you. Sorry about that. Anyway, as you all know, if you've been paying attention at all, I don't know why you would, but um, I was fasting, made it 4 days, quit like Friday. Today's Monday. I'm off today because I'm a part timer while I'm going to school. And tomorrow, this morning, I mean, technically last night at supper, but this morning I began fasting again, and so tomorrow morning I will call it one day, but even though technically it's more than that because I didn't eat since last supper last night. But anyway, I haven't been in the slightest way hungry, which is nice. It's like after 5 o'clock, and I haven't eaten anything all day. I've only drank water, and I had one energy drink which was calorie free, but for my caffeine. I really just need to start doing coffee more instead of the energy drinks and stuff like that. Um, but either way, it's all good. I've restarted my fast. I like starting, especially that I started on Monday, which is kind of cool. It's easier to keep track of. But, you know, calling it the mornings. So whenever I get up in the morning, I just say, made it one more day. Okay. So I went 4 days. Now I'm starting again, ground zero. All right. Um, oh, I voted today, early. I voted early. And so when you vote early, I didn't know this because I've never voted early before, but when you vote early, they call it an absentee vote. So when you get there, you have to fill out a special form. I just went to my the administrative building for the county or whatever. It's in my town, and it's sort of like what a lot of places that I've ever gone to before would be in their courthouse or whatever. It's all one big building, but not here. So that was where the voting office is, and it was packed. Lots and lots of people voting this time, and that's awesome. Which people need to get back in the habit of voting. I don't care who they're voting for; they just need to get back in the habit of voting because it sounds lame, but it's a duty. Uh, when I was in the military, there was a saying that was repeated, three words, over and over and over again, constantly. You could have woke up out of a dead sleep and said it just because it was such a common thing, but that's duty, honor, country. And as an American citizen, it's our duty to vote. So many places don't get to, you know, and places like Venezuela and stuff like this where they've got rigged elections, like the nutty kind that are obviously, or wherever it was, the last one was like I don't know if it was Brazil or what, but anyway, the Maduro guy came out and said I was the winner, and then it's even the United Nations came out with saying like, hey, it's really obvious that was all rigged. Um, the only and even in America, okay, where you've got every time there's a loser, there's always a bunch of pissed off people, and that's the same anywhere, not with just elections, but any decision, any law that's ever made. There's always going to be people that are for it and people that are against it, and it's the majority rule, which is, I mean, that's how every community basically should be, you know, except when I say community, the country is a community too. That does not when some people think every decision should be left up to states and stuff like that, I completely disagree with that. The southern states in America wanted slavery. Uh, they fought to keep that local rule, and the federal government said, nope, you are under our jurisdiction. The federal government owned the states. Not just the federal government, but all the other citizens in every other state owned a piece of all those southern states because we are a collective, like a union. And we pay federal taxes and things like that, which means we are part owners of all those different states. And the entire country voted no. The majority of the country voted no on slavery. It passed. I mean, we were not the first country. We are probably one of the last countries to ban slavery. I mean, just about all of Europe had banned it before us. But there was a ton of money to make to in the industry of slavery. I mean, imagine now. I have been a business owner before. Could you imagine if I had like 3 people working for me that I could have by force keeping in line another 50 people somehow, and I'm not paying those other 50 people. I'm just giving them food, and for the most part, they're growing it. And so, think of all the money that I would make out of having this basically free workforce. And it's not even where you're considering like stock animals like cattle or horses or whatever, where you trade back and forth these animals. You raise them, graze them on your property or whatever, and then trade them off for one thing or another. Imagine having all of these workers that are free, you don't have to pay. That is gigantic amounts of money, even for a small company. And when you talk about plantations who, probably at one time, many plantations were owned by the same conglomerate of investors or whatever like that. That's big money. That's an entire economy all by itself. And so, yeah, they didn't want to give that money up. That's greed, simple greed. We will commit an atrocity by forcing other human beings to work for us for free, and then all of the horrible, horrible things that were done to those people in the name of keeping free labor. How regular folks can't see. There's a ton of people that still to this day live in the South that don't see how fucked up that was. I mean, just in the most just disgusting way. So I don't know why I'm getting off on a tangent, which is normal for me. I have ADD. It's like squirrel, and so I get off on tangents. So as I started again, I'm fasting again. I voted today in an early vote. They called that an absentee. Apparently, if you vote early, which I've never done before, but if you vote early, it's called an absentee vote. You have to fill out a form when you get there, and it's an absentee ballot, as if you live in another state, but you're a resident of a different state, like in the military. And then they send you a ballot, you fill it out, and then you send it back. Even though you're voting in person, when you're voting early, it's an absentee ballot. It seems weird. But in my opinion, it's kind of one of those ways to keep a lot of people from voting because it gets difficult, And I don't remember ever voting and not having to show my ID. So I've heard different things in the news about how some states are trying to make it difficult to vote by requiring a driver's license or requiring a state ID or something like that. And I don't recall in all the years, and I voted in every single national vote, much not to mention most by far of my local votes for like local politicians and mayoral and all that kind of stuff. And I think I've always had to show my driver's license or vote, my state ID. So anyway, it doesn't matter. It's done. I voted. Yahoo! And my wife still has to vote yet, and I'm going to go with her when she votes and stuff, but I wasn't willing. We were going to vote this last Saturday, and today's Monday. We were going to vote last Saturday, and I don't know how in the heck I did it, but I forgot about it. I was outside working on my project vehicle and I think cleaning my garage or something. I spent all day doing that crap, and then all of a sudden I got in the house, and I'm like, wait a minute, and I forgot I was going to vote that day. So I wasn't willing to take a chance, and so I went ahead and voted today, and I'm glad I did. My wife's going to wait and vote, I guess, next Saturday. But I know one thing that has to happen, and it's silly that it hasn't happened already, is that voting day needs to be. I mean, if we've got the dumbest national holidays in some cases, but voting day needs to be a national holiday so people get the opportunity to get off work for it, and. Because, we were apparently going to vote on Saturday, but Saturday's a kind of a difficult day to vote. And, I mean, having one day to vote is kind of silly anyway, because I think the voting offices get overwhelmed. it was really busy where I went today to vote, and the one of the guys in there had been working there for years as a during the voting times, and he said it was as busy now as he'd ever seen it, which I think is neat that more and more people are getting out to vote than usual, because I think it should be required that everybody vote one way or the other, simply because we have the right, and it's something that people have fought and died for. And presumably, when we're fighting around the world, or when we just join the military, we're in preparation to fight if we need to. And there are a bunch of countries that don't permit voting, or the voting's fake, like Russia and all that kind of stuff, that would love to put an end to our democracy. And we are a democracy. I keep on hearing people talk about how, no, we're a republic. We are both. We're a democratic republic, because one of them, I'm not going to explain that right now. If you want to look up the definitions of the two, you'll find out that we are both at the same time. We are a democracy, though. And it has nothing to do with Democratic Party or Republican Party, which a lot of people get that confused. We are a democratic republic. But anyway, everybody should get out and vote. And I'm glad to see this vote, that it was packed. And it's not even voting day yet. It's early. And it was a Monday. So it's not like it was, like everybody was off and they could vote. But it was packed while I was there. So I have a hard time imagining what it would look like on voting day, which is kind of like your last day to vote. I think that's a really poorly thought out way to do it. I think that there ought to be several days where people can go in and vote. Period. That's just the way it is. And because today was early voting and a Monday, and they were almost overwhelmed. So I think if people voted to the capacity that we're required to, I think that there would be really long lines. It would discourage some people, and maybe some people with bad health would have a hard time just plain old being in the lines long enough. So anyway, get out and vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for. I hope you vote your conscience, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to vote your conscience. There's no such thing as a perfect candidate. Never will be, as far as I know. I mean, I got really lucky when I voted for President Obama. I wasn't going to vote for him in the beginning, because I didn't know who he was. I'd never heard of him before. I wasn't averse to his name or anything, not sounding American-y, European-ish. It wasn't it. It wasn't his race or anything like that. I just never heard of him before. Hold on.